Israel has taken control of the Al-Shifa hospital in Gaza. It claims to have killed 20 Hamas militants, including a senior leader. In fact, yesterday, in the early morning hours, Israel started pounding the hospital compound. The same compound where thousands of Palestinians have been seeking refuge, living in makeshift tents. But Israeli officials claim that the hospital was being used for more than treating and sheltering the civilians, that senior Hamas fighters were using it as their base to command the attacks. Listen to this for yourself.
The
Hamas terror organization continues to systematically operate from within hospitals and civilian infrastructures. It abuses civilians and patients as human shields. Hamas tried to re-establish its base in the hospital and use it as a shelter for terrorists on the run. We will not allow this and will attack and continue to attack any place Hamas tries to re-establish its grip.
So Israel targeted the hospital, launching precision airstrikes. Its special forces were supported by infantry and tanks. Soon a fire broke out at the entrance of the complex. Many displaced women and children in the hospital suffocated to death. People have been trapped inside the hospital buildings. The Israeli Defense Forces detained at least 80 people. But the Israeli spokesperson is putting the figure at 200. Listen to this.
During the operation, we apprehended more than 200 terrorist suspects that are now being questioned. We eliminated more than 20 terrorists inside the hospital compound.
Israel has also released aerial and ground footage, claiming that weapons were fired at the IDF from inside the hospital compound. The clip shows soldiers in the hospital compound engaged in gunfights. Have a look. There is chaos and destruction in the hospital grounds. After seizing control of the strategically located hospital, the Israeli forces have told thousands living nearby to evacuate the region. They dropped leaflets and used social media to tell the civilians to leave their homes immediately and travel along Gaza's coastal road to Al-Mawasi. This is about 30 kilometers south from Gaza City. Israel calls it the humanitarian island. But how will the Gazans leave? That too at such a short notice. There is very limited transportation. Many residents of Gaza City, particularly children and elderly, are weak after months without adequate food. How many would be able to comply with the Israeli instructions is the question. Israel raided the hospital in November as well, and now it's back again. What does it mean? That the IDF was not able to eradicate Hamas from the grounds the first time around? Is that what happened? Since February, the IDF has returned to fight in territories that it supposedly cleared of Hamas militants last year, and now comes the hospital raid, highlighting Israel's weak grip in these areas, perhaps. There were doubts whether the hospital was being used by Hamas as a covert command center, but none over the strength of Israel's control when its soldiers moved in. 3 months later, the raid is kind of an admission that this control might have slipped. Hamas is operating in parts of Northern Gaza that were cleared by Israeli forces a long time ago. Will this keep happening is the question. Is Israel looking at a forever war in Gaza? What makes me ask that? Firstly, Hamas has survived for far longer than expected. Even after sustaining heavy casualties, it seems it still has enough men and functional command systems to launch attacks on Israeli troops, given the circumstances are right. Secondly, Israel has demobilized troops to its northern border or the occupied West Bank. It is only launching targeted strikes and raids in Gaza instead of massed confrontations. This means there are only a few troops permanently on the ground in northern Gaza, giving Hamas enough time and opportunities to regroup and re-establish. Lastly, Israel still does not have any realistic plans for governing Gaza after the war. Prime Minister Netanyahu is focused on attacking Rafah. For those who might not be aware, Rafah is the southernmost town in the Gaza Strip. It houses more than 1 million displaced civilians. This has raised concerns globally, but what's the point? The fire is not fully extinguished in any part of Gaza. Hamas fighters are lurking in the territories that were supposed to be cleared by Israel. Why is Israel going further south then? Will this continue to happen on loop? To stay up to speed with the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.